Hello, my name is Geogen and welcome back to World of Tanks. I asked you guys in the last couple of days whether or not you'd like to see a tank review, and a few of you replied saying the T54E1, the T20 and the AMX-5120. So I'm going to start with the T54E1 and I will do the T20 and the AMX-5120 at some point in the future. I haven't forgotten about it, it's just this one I'm going to start with, okay? Let's begin. So the hit points of this tier 9 American medium, which is an autoloader, I'll come on to that later, is 1750 hit points, which ties with the E50, a German medium with the same tier, and is more than that of the T54, which I was somewhat surprised at because the Germans are well known for having high hit points, along with the British. Not so much the Americans, but it seems that 1750 hit points for a medium ties with the E50. So it's good. Nice high amount of hit points allows you to get into certain situations where you may need to trade health, and you will be able to have some more health on top in order to get out of that. Now, you weigh 54 tons, almost 55 tons in the configuration I have. This is all fully upgraded, by the way. And that's decent, considering you have 810 horsepower in your engine, meaning you can get up to a decent speed, especially going downhill, and potentially use ramming tactics. Now, 43 miles, it's not even miles, kilometers an hour, is what it says your top speed is. Going along the flat, and it will reach that. Going downhill, you will exceed that speed. And of course going uphill it takes a little while longer, but it doesn't take as long as certain tanks which are underpowered in terms of their engines. Now 46 degrees traverse speed of the tracks and the hull is good, but the turret is slower by 10 degrees, which means you'll probably have the front of the tank facing your enemy or enemies before you can get a shot on target in most circumstances. The armour is interesting, and we'll take a look at a tank inspector program, or TanksGG rather, which is a website that does a very similar job, to take a look at that in a moment. The game, in the game, it tells you have 110 frontal hull armour, 76 side, and 35 rear. And your turret armour apparently is 127 at the front, 69 at the rear, at the sides, and 50 at the rear. But as I've been suggesting, this is not quite the case. Now, the gun I'll talk about in a moment. The view range is very good, 400 meters at 100% crew. And if you have a slightly better trained crew like mine, you can get it over 400 meters. As well as with crew skills and premium consumables. Now, signal range is also 745, which is okay. It's nothing to be jumping over for joy, because no one really gives a damn about signal range compared to the rest of the vehicle. Right, let's have a look at TanksGG to have a look at the armor profile. So here we are on TanksGG, and we're looking at a collision model of the T54E1. I'll just bring it up a little bit so you can see the title and everything. On the right hand side we've got spaced armour, and on the left we have normal thickness of armour. Now in the game it tells you have 110 hull armour, I believe, and if I'm wrong then go back and see if I was correct. But in the game it is different. You can see that 101 millimeters here on this orange band. Up here is 110. Down here is 81, and down here is 61. So the Americans at later tiers generally do this with a lot of their tanks. The T125, the M103, they have this sort of beak pattern, and then they have layering of armour, and it progressively gets thinner as it goes down. So basically, if you're going to shoot it in the hull and you have a gun which might not go through, shoot it towards the lower hull, so down here. The turret is even more interesting because it has several layers of armour again, but there's also a lot more angling going on, especially around the gun mantle. So down here where the turret ring is, as you can see, the turret ring goes all the way around, of course, and there's two different layers of armour. Firstly, there's this orange section, which is 110, same as the hull up here. Then it goes to 127, which the in-game stats would tell you. And then here is 108, but because it is curved very, very well, angled very well, it is exceptionally thick, 240mm, so don't shoot it there. And then here is 88, and here is 69mm, so again it has this layering system. If you're going to shoot it in the turret, try and shoot it where it is mostly flat. Up here, for instance, even though the armour is 127mm thick, it is mostly flat. If we look at a visual model, you can see, even though there is some curvature going on here, it is flatter than the rest of the turret. Now, of course there is going to be angling involved, and we can also look at a live model. Green is easier to penetrate than red, yellow and purple. Purple is basically impossible to penetrate with most weapons. As you can see here, 300mm is progressing down to around 130. So with these curved turrets, shoot them where it's mostly flat. The sides are flat generally, 63mm, 69mm, 44 and 35 at the back here, and there's no problem there. If you get a T54E1, shoot it in the side and rear, you'll do fine. If you're shooting it from the front though, shoot it, as I say, in the flattish areas. Now, over here we have the gun stats, and because it is an autoloader, it has a very long reload after its 4 shells. So it's a 105mm gun, 390 average damage, 210mm of penetration with armour piercing, and 1000 meters per second velocity, which doesn't tell you in the game. So the shells are pretty fast, but they have lacking penetration compared to other tier 9 weapons. I always compare 105 guns to the Centurion because it has excellent penetration of 268, whereas this is only 210. However, it is an autoloader and therefore you can do a lot of damage very quickly indeed. The reload between each shell is 2.22 seconds. It has a 2.7 second aim time, almost 2.8, with 0.38 accuracy, which is okay. And of course this can be reduced with equipment. So as you can see over here, we've got a standard stock damage per minute of 2272. If we add various things, which would be improved ventilation, vertical stabilizer, and I can't remember the other equipment I have. It's possibly enhanced gun lane drive, and you can see the DPM goes up, as well as the reload goes down, and aim time goes down as well. So you can see the reload is around 33 seconds for 4 shells. I just hit the microphone, that's going to sound awful. And that's okay. It's not as good as a tier 10 variant, say the T57 or the AMX50-120, but it's still very decent, and you'll be able to see what you can do with targets which do not suspect 4 shots from an autoloader in the side or rear. Right, so we're back in the garage for the final part of the statistics and all that jazz before the actual gameplay. If you stuck through it this far, well done. We will be getting to the gameplay very soon. The last thing I wanted to mention was the stock grind. Now, at stock you have to start with this 90mm gun that you have on the T69. On here you have 5 shells, 2 seconds between each shell loading, 25 seconds between all of them loading. However, you have to start with 173 penetration, and at tier 9 That is very, very bad indeed. 240 average damage, 0.38 accuracy, 2.6 aim time. However, what you can do is one of three options. One, you can try and struggle with 173 penetration, which will make you have to fight side and rear of most vehicles pretty much all the time at tier 9 and 10. Or you can load heat magazines, 250 penetration with each shell, or you can free experience it. And I can't remember how much you needed in terms of free experience for this or experience for this, but I'm gonna say it was over 50,000. If I'm wrong, then it's around that mark. So that is a slight issue. You don't have to unlock a new turret. The turret is stock. There are no turret upgrades. Engine upgrades. This one is on the M103, so if you go down the heavy tank branch in the American tree, then you'll be able to unlock the engines. The other two engines, well, the stock engine of course you get for free, so never mind about that. And the upgraded engine, T30 tank destroyer, T29 heavy tank, T32 heavy tank, and this. So heavy tanks or tank destroyers you can get the engines from. Tracks, of course, you have to unlock on here. You can't share tracks with any other tank, and I believe you need the tracks in order to upgrade most of the modules in terms of the gun and the engine. The amount of weight you can put on the vehicle goes up by 3 tons, so there you go. And if you're interested in the radios, the stock one is pretty bad, and it's shared on a lot of vehicles. And then the upgrade you can get on the M41 Walker Bulldog, T49 light tank, T71 light tank, or the M103. So there are several options to upgrade the vehicle. As I was talking about in Tanks GG, I've equipped mine with a ventilation enhanced gun lane drive and vertical stabilizer, just to make sure the gun is more accurate during movement, and turret rotation, and there's less aim time, and crew ventilation is good because it brings up everyone's skills, everyone's repair skills, everything, so by 5%. And lastly, the amount of ammunition you can carry is, let's see, quick bit of mass is 36, there we go. There it is, 36. I carry the majority AP with 2 magazines of APCR just in case I need that for very thickly armed targets. As we talked about, 210 penetration is not brilliant against tier 10s. So carrying APCR, which has 255 penetration, will be able to carry you through some situations. Now, that's enough of the numbers and the stats. Let's take a look at a replay of mine in the T54E1. So here we are in the T54E1, myself playing on Fjords. It's a tier 9 game. There are 5 tier 9s on each side. However, we don't have any tank destroyers, whereas they have 2 tier 9 tank destroyers. Now, as you can see, the mobility is reasonably good. We're not at our top speed of 43.5, but we're still cruising at about 30 over cross country. I'm a little bit indecisive here as to decide to whether to go left or right. In the end, I decided to head towards the cover of this rock. Now, we've loaded in 31 odd seconds, got 4 shots in the magazine. Now we're going to see if we can spot anyone and wait. There's a lot of waiting in these types of machines. You can't really push attacks. Oh, SU-101, straight through the side. Unfortunately, we waste a shell because he goes down to the MX-50-120 on my left. So I decide to go for a reload. 34 seconds. And in that time, in autoloaders, you have to relocate. You might as well be doing something if you're reloading, because you can't shoot. Then you might as well readjust, and then when you have loaded, you'll be able to use your firepower effectively. We spotted an IS-3, or someone spotted an IS-3, but I don't think he's seen us, so we're going to go sneak up on him. and see if we can harass the enemy from behind. Also, that first shot into the SU-100M1 was a high roll. Normally we do 390 on average, but we did 439, so that's nice to see. Fully loaded, 4 shells. Oh, the back of a T95. One of the most heavily armed targets from the front. Put 2 into his engine. Track him in place. And leave him on 7% health for the AMX-5120 to finish off. So, as quick as that, our damage score has jumped to 2000. Each shell takes 2.22 seconds to reload, so that means you can empty all 4 shells within 6.5 seconds. And we managed to bounce the T54E1, which is the Super Pershing. Looking for shots, we get tracked. The Super Pershing doesn't have the most brilliant pen with its AP. Managed to angle just in time, so our tracks absorb the shell and it ricochets. We fully loaded, track the T26 in place, hit him once in the side, track him again, set him on fire, take him down to 5% health, ram him for a bit, and the AMX-5120 takes him down. That guy's secured all of the damage, secured all the kills from me. And we're reloading once again. This battle has been very, very quick indeed. And sometimes you can set the pace, especially if you're in a tier 9 game, but usually in tier 10 games you don't want to be leading any attacks. You are a support vehicle, especially considering your limited penetration, but your amazing damage output if you can penetrate every shell. Looking for a shot on the 704. First one goes into his track. He repairs. Second one goes in. Third one goes low into the building. And the last shell we eject into the top weak spot of the AMX AC-48, the machine gun cupola at the back of that vehicle. So we're now reloading once again. Artillery's just fired, so I'm thinking we're pretty heavy, we've got decent amount of speed, let's go for the ram. And we're going to have reloaded pretty soon anyway, but you know how artillery likes to be a douchebag, and he's on 1% hit points, reversing into the water. We go after him, we lose all of our momentum, but we are in contact with him, and therefore he drowns, and we get credited for the kill. However, we go and drown ourselves anyway. It's the end of the game. We managed to score 4,265 damage and quite an entertaining end to the round. Unfortunately, when you're underwater you can't fire the weapon. Everything locks up. You can move the tracks and the vehicle, but you can't move the turret and you can't fire the gun. And you can see what all the critical damage happens when you flood the vehicle. Engine knocked out, ammo rack damage, gun knocked out, turret knocked out, view rangers knocked out, and radio knocked out, as well as fuel tanks damaged, all the crew members are killed, and that's the end of your game. Even though I still had half of my hit points left. But the end of the match was happening anyway, so it doesn't matter. Let's have a look at the post-game statistics very quickly. So here are the post-game stats on the T54E1 game I just showed you in the Fjords map. We got second class mastery badge, so people are doing very well in these if 4,000 damage is only a second class. Bruiser, 5 for effect, 57,000 credits, 4,737 experience, times 3 first minute of the day, premium account. On the right here you can see the amount of damage we inflicted to several enemies, and apparently on the T26 or the Super Pershing we did 7 lots of critical damage, so we set him on fire. It must have ruined his fuel tank, his engine, his ammo rack, probably a lot of things, so yeah, that happened. The Fe3805 as well, we did a lot of critical damage to, because we pushed him into the river. The team score wise, we came on top on base experience, 1053, 4265 damage. Enemy team, this Object 74 was having a cracking game, but we unfortunately shut his team down very quickly. He was on for a pretty big carry if he was able to kill a few more of us. And the detailed report, 14 shots fired, 12 hits, 10 penetrations, and you see there 4265 damage. Some blocked by armor, almost 500. 6 enemies damaged, 1 destroyed, 2 enemies spotted. And the breakdown of credits. See, the ammunition wasn't too expensive because we didn't need to use APCR in that game. And battle time and battle experience earned. So that was me in the T54E1. Not a bad game at all, really. But let's see what someone who is a bit more competent with the T54E1 can do when he's playing. So this is one of my subscribers, Fun Real. I first read it as Funeral, and I felt a bit stupid. But anyway, he's in the T54E1, and he's playing on Himmelsdorf. He's also in a platoon with, let me check his name, T-Flat. And T-Flat is in an Object 432. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about the T54E1. And you can see that we're going along flat, hard terrain, and we reach around 40 kilometers until we reach this high, steep gradient. And I'm just taking a look at those rock textures, and they're bloody awful, but that doesn't matter. We're talking about the T54E1. And the engine power of 810 horsepower is decent. Vehicles with less engine power would have difficulty climbing the hill. However, you can see that Object 432, which has a very good engine and it weighs less, I believe, can climb the hill a bit quicker, although T-Flat in the Object 442 did get a better spawn than Fun Real here. So he's almost made it to the top of the hill. He's also reloaded well in advance, so that's fair enough. Let's see what he can do with this 105. Aims for the lower plate, hits, tracks him, bounces, hits him again. T-Flat takes him out. Last shell goes into the WZ-120, and the SU-122-44 hits him in the turret. That was very quick. Now the problem with an autoloader is you can't help any allies of yours if they've taken a forward position, such as T-Flat there in the Object 442. The Object 442, well, being well armoured, also doesn't have a fully rotating turret, and therefore T-Flat has a premature end to his game. But back to Fun Real, he avenges his platoon mate by knocking out the SU-122-44 straight through the side, no problem. 3 shells remaining. Now that was a bit reckless. He's plugged 2 shells into the WZ, took one from the Panther, and I am surprised that he didn't take so much more damage. The IS-3 obviously was either reloading or missed or bounced. But Fun Real here is now reloading, and he's up to 2,500 damage done with 7 hits. It's a very fast-paced game, this, as many games on the hill are on Himmelsdorf. I also forgot to mention he's part of 4 tier 9s on his team. 1 on each team have been killed already, however. Reloaded once again, looking for a target to unload on, but he is waiting for that IS-3 to fire. He doesn't want to take any unnecessary damage. Lerva goes out too far and takes the hit from the IS-3. Artillery lands a huge shell on the Panther, taking up 600 health. That M53-55 artillery is a nightmare for most vehicles. Takes a hit from the WZ, knocks out the Panther, unloads a nice high roll into the WZ, finishes the WZ off, and aims, fortunately hits the connection between the lower and upper plate, the sort of beak, as it were, of the IS-3, and bounces. Now, if we just take a moment to look at where he's bounced some shots, you can see he's bounced a couple of shots on the gun mantle, not gun mantle, this sort of curved area where the gun is, and he's also received some penetrations in what is curved armor, but it is weaker because he was hit from the side and it's slightly more flat compared to when it is from face on. Now he's reloaded once again. Up to 3,000 damage done. And now he's looking for the IS-3's lower plate. And gets one in. Gets another one in. Gets a third one in. And takes him down. And that quick as that, you can take out a, well, majority of the health points of the IS-3 in around 6 to 7 seconds. That's what these things are very, very good at. They're very good at bullying lower tier tanks. It was interesting though, for the reason that he was firing at the lower plate of the IS-3. It's probably because he was slightly lower down in terms of his position relative to the IS-3. And that's why he probably fired that. Normally I would fire at the left side of the pike nose, but the lower plate works just as well, as you just saw. However, he is only on 357 hit points. Has to be a little bit cautious now. Still a Lerva and a very good Panther 2 player. Along with 2 artillery, an RU-251 and a Panzer 1C. So he knows that the Panther and the 1C are towards the middle of the map, so we can advance. Relatively safe for now. And the RU-251 is over to the western side of the map now, along with the Lerva. I haven't seen any artillery, so the artillery must be towards that section of the map as well. And that's pretty brutal. One shot into the back of a lightly armoured light tank. Takes him out. Gives it a bit of aiming time. Takes out the RU-251. These autoloaders are very good at taking out low health targets very quickly towards the end of the game. Surprised that shot connected. Got one more. And again. I am surprised that connected. He didn't give it that much aim time, but RNG was with him, and that shot wasn't as hasty as the previous shell. Reloading once again. He's now in a bit of a tricky spot because the Lerva could attack him from the right hand side and the Panther 2 could technically attack him. Yak Panther takes him out, however. And Fun Real acknowledges that with a nice. It's good to see. And also, he loves the Yak Panther for that. And the T54, who is long dead, still in the game. It's fair enough. Bit bizarre. Panther 2 who accuses the Lerva of being a bot, and it's possible. It's possible he's a new player as well. Doesn't really matter. Lerva is likely to be on the left-hand side where he was last spotted. And there he is. Lerva could one-shot kill him. Puts 2 into the side of the Lerva, it's not angled well enough. Puts 3 in, and the last shell goes flying over the side. Now he's on 52 hit points, and it looks a bit dire for him. But wait! Some great covering fire from the Yak Panther from before, and that was the end of the game. Put a little love heart there, good job for the Yak Panther in helping him survive. Wow, that was a very fast-paced game. 6,696 damage done. 6,700 damage, pretty much. 6 kills. Top tier, of course, but shows you the power of this gun against lower tier and equivalent tier opponents. Let's look at Fun Real's post-game stats. So, here is Fun Real's post-game stats. That's the wrong screen. There we go. I am not perfect, everyone. He got an Ace Tanker Mastery game, and there you can see you need to get about 6,000 to 7,000 damage done in order to get these Ace Tanker badges. I mean, there are other circumstances you can get it in, but if you want to do it by damage, there you go. 5 for effect, duelist, and a god, bruiser, high caliber, top gun, 56,000 credits earned, 1500 experience. No ×2 win of the day, and a standard account. You can see he destroyed 6, did a lot of damage, damaged 9 in total I believe. Spotted 1, did assistance damage as well. Came top on the team unsurprisingly for a huge carry. And you can see the disparity between him and his team. This Japan, for which is a tier 7, managed to achieve 1800 as opposed to his 6700. Meanwhile, over here we see the damage score. There we go. Panzer 1C, Zombalicious, what a name, I'm just saying. 2524 in a tier 7 light tank. Very nice to see. Unfortunately, Unreal was on the other team, so they lost. Team score. He fired 24 shots, of which 23 hit and 21 penetrate. Excellent marksmanship. Maybe he would have been able to get a tiny bit more damage, but 6,700 is more than enough. 7 hits received, 6 penetrated, 1 non-penetration. You can see therefore the armour is a bit dodgy. You can bounce some shots, especially from lower tiers, but generally tier 9 and 10 and tier 8, say a T54 heavy tank, it will just blast straight through you. So he managed to block 320 damage, which is the equivalent of a T54 firing at you. Spotted 1 enemy vehicle, damaged 9, destroyed 6, did almost 500 assistance damage. And then you can see the breakdown of his credit earnings, the time of the battle, and his experience. Very, very well played in the T54E1, and it highlighted its strengths and its weaknesses. So I hope you enjoyed this rather lengthy video. I believe it's around 35 minutes long on the T54E1. Tell me, did I do a good job on giving you a roundabout opinion on this vehicle? I think it's quite good in the right hands, of course. The armour isn't brilliant. The gun is exceptionally good at taking on lower tier opponents, weakly armoured opponents, and low health opponents. So, tell me what you thought of this review. Tell me if I should do more of this length in the future. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give a like down below, and if you're new, give it a subscribe, maybe a share. And as always, I've been Geogen, this has been World of Tanks, and I'll see you chaps and chapettes in the next one.